You wanted to start by piggybacking off something from my discussion with Heather from Black Pigeon Speaks, and you specifically took issue with how she classified the new right. What did you take issue with?
I don't think she classified it well enough. She kind of just meandered on about like 2 or 3 sentences of stuff that didn't really make sense to me. She talks about how Paul Joseph Watson took the claim from her when actually Cernovich was the one that coined it before Paul Joseph Watson came out with it.
Okay, well, what is the new right then?
From what I've looked at and studied, new rights, they're the people that want nationalism without the white identity politics. The new right's made up of sorts of different people with white, black, Asian, Latino, gays. They're the people that helped Trump get elected in the close states. The new right are the Make America Great Again people. They like to sit around and meme and laugh at SJWs. I kind of like that part too.
Would you say the majority of their demographics are white, though?
I would say in America, a lot of demographics are white. We're a 64% white nation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in a lot of ways, you're going to get a lot more white people into certain different things.
Okay, but that doesn't tell me what they stand about. What do they stand for?
They stand for pretty much your normal conservative values, but they're kind of tired of like the campus rhetoric of the hate speech stoppage. They're excuse me. They got tired of hearing, well, you're white, so you're racist, and well, you're in a minority, so you're a victim. Some of them, you can associate these people kind of like with the C.J. Pearsons, the Terrence Wilsons, like the Joy Vilas. The new right's trying to, from what I've seen on Twitter, Facebook, the new right's kind of trying to police their alt-right and try to break the conditioning of their alt-right and trying to reunite the conservative party from your traditional Republicans, your traditional conservatives, and trying to bring my side, because I'm right-leaning, try to bring my side together.
When I read about the alt-right, I read about it from groups like the Anti-Defamation League, and they basically said another word for the new right is the alt-light. Like it's alt-right minus the white nationalism. That's how you defined it as well. But you guys don't stand for anything different as new right from the alt-right, aside from the white nationalism. Is that fair to say?
Right. The new right isn't white nationalists or black nationalists or Latino nationalists. It's just a group of nationalists that want what's best for their own country and to look out for the citizens of their own country before we start looking out for others.
Okay. Mark Pitcavage from the Anti-Defamation League described the alt-right as within the orbit of the alt-right. They say that you're a hate-based movement. Are they wrong?
Well, I can't speak for everybody in the new right, but from what I've seen, it's not about being a hate-based movement. I mean, we have black people, we have gay people, we have Latinos, we have white people, we have Asian people inside the new right. And the new right despises the alt-right because the alt-right's like this massive stain. Although they're a fringe group, they're kind of a small outer fringe group. They are a massive stain on this new kind of conservatism we're trying to bring to light.
I still don't see how this new kind of conservatism is different from the old kind of conservatism. I mean, you still stand for small government values, lower taxes, a traditionalist social culture. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's for the most part. That still stands correct.
Then I need something more. I mean, what is the movement about?
The new right kind of stands for, in my opinion, you're pushing to like take care of our American people first. We're trying to, get our visa program figured out so we can have better jobs for our people here. We want to take care of our elderly, our sick. We're not necessarily looking forward to bringing other people in and trying to take care of them.
Okay, are our elderly and our sick not taken care of here?
We are, but we want better for them. We want to try to make better. I mean, we all look at
better in what way? How are they being mistreated?
You can always have better healthcare. You can always have a better system to take care of your elderly and your young people.
And you think Trump's the guy to get this done?
I don't know if Trump's the guy to get it done, but I think it's kind of a step for us. Like, Trump was, for me personally, this past election was, the better of, two evil, or the worst of, the picking from the worst of two evils. But Trump brought out, kind of like the nationalist movement, and which also brought out the dumb white nationalist people that come out. But it's about making Americans first, taking care of our people first, using our programs for the American citizen.
How much do you think we spend on foreign aid every year?
I looked it up a couple days ago. Something like 70, if I remember right, I could be completely wrong, but something about $79 billion here and there or something. Wow. I had the number, I just can't look it up, or I can't figure it out right now.
I can confidently tell you foreign aid constitutes something like 1% of the federal budget. It's not exactly breaking the bank. And the things that would break the bank are the things the nationalist movement are in favor for, like building a wall on the border of Mexico. That's not cheap.
Well, see, I think there was. I've had this discussion before. Me personally, I didn't care for a wall when I voted Trump. I cared for a stronger border. However way we got it was good enough for me.
Okay, but the new right on Bonk, the new right wants a wall.
Yeah, most likely. Most likely there's a lot of people in there that want a wall, but I feel like there's also quite a few people that believe like me, like, a lot of Facebook groups that I've been in, that I'm linked up to, we don't necessarily care for a wall as much more as we care about stronger borders. Okay.
Well, immigration from Mexico is actually declining. When are the borders going to be strong enough for you?
When we have absolute control over it, when we have no illegal immigration. And I know a lot of it stems from overstayed visas and whatnot. And I'd like to put a point out there. I'm for an easier pathway to citizenship.
Okay, so then you support...
come here?
I'm sorry, can I if you support a pathway to citizenship, an easier way, would you support reinstating DACA?
The way I see it, I think DACA needs to be fixed because once it wasn't constitutional.
Why do you say that?
Why. Say it again?
Why do you say that?
It wasn't constitutional because it's an executive order. It's not something it's not a law that you couldn't have been just passed and ratified. It wasn't done through the Congress. It wasn't done through the Senate.
Why did it have to be?
Because I'm pretty sure our law states that we have to have things ratified through our Congress and Senate.
Yes, but DACA wasn't changing law. It wasn't writing new law. It was simply changing enforcement policy on existing law. Why does that have to go through Congress? Executive orders function like that all the time. It's how the executive will enforce its laws.
I think in order to find a permanent solution to it, we needed to kick it back to Congress and kick it back to the Senate, which is, I think it's a good thing that Trump kind of pulled it back and said, hey, it's been deferred for a while. It needs to be fixed. Y'all guys need to do something about it.
Okay. Do you think Congress is going to do something about it?
I don't know. I hope so. I hope they can come to an agreement.
Yeah.
I'm not too. I don't know. I'm not too optimistic about it, but I think, and if enough people can just come together and talk about it, get their sides down, they can ratify and make something new. I'm completely for if we. What is it, 863,000 people that are here through the DACA program, right?
Basically, yes.
Something like that. I'm for, instate them, give them citizenship. But then let's filter the next group that's coming. Yes. Let's get the next group through the system the right way.
Okay. DACA was something of a panacea to an already broken immigration system. You had people who were living here who didn't even know that they weren't citizens until they tried to get a driver's license. And like the numbers are, 800,000. This was supposed to be remedied in Congress by something called the DREAM Act, and it never got anywhere. Democrats support the DREAM Act. Republicans don't. You're comfortable that with Republicans handling this in general?
I think that's why we need to work on both sides of the aisle to come together and draft something that's going to work.
Oh, I agree. But Donald Trump paid a political price when he was trying to work with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer on just this.
Well, yeah, because he's not just this hardcore Republican. I mean, Donald Trump was a Democrat for a while.
Well, let's talk about what kind of Republican Donald Trump is then, real quick. I'm sorry, I know I'm interrupting a lot, but I want to pin down who Donald Trump is. Do you think he's alt-right?
So I think no, I don't think he's alt-right. I think he's kind of just whatever he wants to be that day. I think, if you like Trump, he likes you. If you don't like Trump, he doesn't like you. I think he fluctuates on a lot of different points.
Doesn't that bother you?
Yeah. There's not too much I can do about it. I mean,
but you did vote for him.
I did vote for him. I vote, but as I've stated before, when we've talked before, I voted for him on a few issues. I wanted stronger border. I wanted tax relief for me personally. I mean, I don't care about much other people. I wanted it for me. I voted for him on all sorts of, the whole immigration issue, Middle East, the entire world over there and the southern border. Because and he was talking to me, America first. I want, I'd like for us to be first again.
Okay. I'm not sure how we're not first, but I see Donald Trump's presidency as a bit of a referendum on the country's attitudes towards identity politics in general. And I think that's what you said earlier. You got tired of people saying that you should be ashamed of... They pull that same white guilt diatribe all the time.
Yeah, every time I'm on Facebook and I'm ever talking to anybody and trying to have a real discussion, I bring up points and it's like, well, you're white, so your opinion doesn't matter. It's like, okay, I guess that's a fair argument somewhere.
Well, I think to some degree it is. I think you being white can't possibly understand the experiences of a black person. And I think that's the message they try to get across, is that you've lived a life that has been defined by an identity. Even if you don't want it to be defined by an identity, you are a white person. So you couldn't understand the experiences of what a black person experiences. Is that fair?
Sure. I would say I don't have the same experiences as some black people, and some white people don't have the same experience as me, and I won't have as good of an experience as some black people.
Sure. Sam Harris, I don't know if you know who he is. He's kind of a pseudo-intellectual philosopher these days, but he got in some trouble over Twitter after the Charlottesville thing. And he said that all identity politics is detestable, but in 2017, white identity politics is the most detestable. Do you agree with that?
I mean, yeah, all identity politics is dumb. I hate identity politics altogether. I feel like in the social media realm, I feel like it's your opinion doesn't hardly matter unless you're in an echo chamber. Your opinion doesn't really matter if you're of a different race to other people, and I find that as a problem. Me personally, on my Facebook page for a while, I've had a picture that doesn't show if I'm white, black, Hispanic, or not, and I just get assumed that I'm white by just putting points out there.
Okay.
And so I get told, well, you have white privilege because you're white, and it's like, I haven't said anything that says I'm white in this entire post. I've asked you a question, and it's like, well, from the way I worded the question, I guess they assume that I'm white, and they say, well, your white privilege does, or your opinion doesn't matter because you're white. Yeah. Maybe Sam Harris is onto something, but I don't know if it's the most. What did you say? Detest? Well, I don't remember the word you used.
Detestable. He said white identity politics is the most detestable.
Well, I don't know if it's the most detestable, but
okay. His rationale was that there is a history with white identity politics that doesn't, black identity politics got us the Civil Rights Act. Black identity politics got us the Voting Rights Act. Feminist identity politics got us women the right to vote. But white identity politics is often affiliated with Jim Crow. So it has a history in terms of being detestable. That was his rationale. I don't like black or brown identity politics all that much, but I think it's unfair to say that this is the same or equal to white identity politics.
Sure.
Black Lives Matter as a movement was kind of born out of a response to what was seen as an unjustified police violence against black people. They're misguided, and I think they're misguided. But there is a historical basis for the movement's outrage and mistrust. You don't think do you think the Black Lives Matter is equal to the alt-right, as some on the new right have proposed?
I don't think they're on the same tier. No.
They're not as bad?
I don't think they're as bad as the alt-right. I mean, as far as the alt-right, there's layers of the alt-right, but I don't think what's seen as the alt-right, like when you talk about the alt-right, right? The first thing that pops in your head is neo-Nazis, white supremacists, right?
Yeah.
There's some other people inside that group. I don't think BLM is at the same level as them. No.
What do you think of when you think of BLM?
I think of the idea behind the movement is in the right place, right? You know, they want to bring attention to, the situations that
their heart's in the right place. Their heads up their ass.
Their actions are out the window.
Okay. And what actions in particular?
There's been countless rioting and looting at Black Lives Matter events. There's been windows broken, businesses burned, cars flipped over.
Can you really say it's countless? I mean, I can count them all on one hand, right? There's Ferguson, there's St. Louis, there's Baltimore, there's Charlotte.
I meant the events, like the countless events of cars being set on fire, the windows being broken, not necessarily the marches themselves or the places they took place. I'm talking about the amount of stores that's been hit. That's what I'm talking about.
Do you think,
when I say countless?
Do you think that the majority of Black Lives Matter protests are violent or riots?
I don't know if that's a majority. I think it's probably close down the middle. They start off nice and peaceful, and then, like with other protests, agitators will show up, or you have the fringe in the group that's just like, well, everybody's distracted with them, let's do some bad stuff over here.
Now, when you say agitators, do you mean people on the right who are coming to counter protest and ultimately malign the pain these people are feeling?
I mean, there's people in the agitators are within their own group, and there's agitators from outside the group. So in one sense, you're correct. There are people from outside that come in, but you also, like, you have the people like let's say like, you know how the Charlottesville alt-right thing.
Yeah.
You had the not neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, the dumbasses,
and then the very fine people.
Well, essentially, you did have people that were there for the just statue protest. Mm-hmm. Now so the people that were there with statue protests, the ones that were holding signs, the ones that weren't hitting other people, the ones that weren't driving cars on the other people, and then you have you have the inner agitators, and you have the outer agitators.
Sure.
Or like with BLM, you have the ones, like I said, that there's people in the group that, while the protest is going on, they're taking liberty to break stuff.
Their bad image is being defined by opportunistic troublemakers, right?
Right.
Okay.
For the most part.
Then would you agree that maybe we should all get behind Black Lives Matter if their heart's in the right place, but their affiliation is being tarnished by troublemakers? Wouldn't it help the movement if we could all get behind that idea that Black Lives Matter?
I think you could probably get behind them, but a lot of their rhetoric is about the police brutality stuff, and a lot of it's talked about that the cop is guilty before any kind of questioning or looking into the situation, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of where I have to draw the line, because like the hands up, don't shoot thing, that was a lie. There were 6 minority people that testified in either written statements to the court or in closed doors with the court that hands up, don't shoot. Yeah. Right, the hands up, don't shoot wasn't the stance. And then you look at on Michael Brown, you look at the autopsy and the way the bullets entered the body. There's no way his hands could have been up in the air and the bullet holes enter the body the way they did.
Okay.
So I think the heart's in the right place at BLM, but a lot of their actions and some of the things that they they say, like, when it comes to, like I said, police officers and the police brutality, and that there's this, that, well, the cop's white, so he killed him because he's white. He didn't kill him because he was going for a gun. He didn't kill him because he was charging him. He didn't kill him because he had a knife. He killed him because he was black.
Yes.
And that's where I have an issue with them.
I mean, yeah, there's a bit of a unique dichotomy here, in that they're wrong, in that they think that most police shootings are racially based when there's no evidence to suggest that, but they're right, and that black people are suffering a disproportionate amount of police violence and a disproportionate amount of violence in general, and drugs and poverty, and there are all these issues that affect black communities, and it's that their anger is probably inappropriately aimed at the state. This is an example of the topic's radioactivity. Every time I make a video about Black Lives Matter, I lose what few subscribers I have like it were clockwork. So instead of the self-inflicted headache that would come with making a new video, let's talk about the shooting at Georgia Tech, where a mentally ill person yelled at police that he wanted to die, and he was approaching them with a knife, and he got shot for it.
Right, and also something about he wrote a couple of suicide notes inside of his...
Yes, absolutely. We're on the same position as this. This was a clear-cut case of suicide by cop, but nobody else can see what I see for some reason. This is so cut and dry to me, and everybody else is having a hard time dealing with it.
Because, well, it's also part of the identity, because he was a transgender person. That has something to do with putting blinders on, right?
Sure.
I think it was him that actually called the cops on himself. I don't remember. I think I heard on the report something like that.
I'd heard something like that, yes.
They show up, and he's standing there with the knife, and the cop is telling him, chill out, put it down, let's kind of relax, the typical what you would say to somebody that's a little up in arms with a knife.
They didn't come and immediately start shooting.
No, which is exactly the opposite. The cop took more than 3 steps backwards before the police officer, Tyler Beck. He took more than 3 steps back with his gun drawn and pointed, and told him stop, and he kept coming. At that point,
I know his back went against the arm of the parking garage, and I was thinking to myself, I don't know that I'd put myself in that corner. I don't know, just as a matter of tacticians, right? You wouldn't want to leave yourself an out if you had to move. If that person started charging, a corner is the bad spot to be. You can't move.
No, and at that point, you have to decide: is it my life or yours? And humans as a whole, we're gonna take our lives 9.5 times out of 10. We're gonna pick ourselves over somebody else.
Sure. But I think Black Lives Matter is expecting police to be above that kind of mentality, that they should be, these are the people who should put their lives on the line for other people. That's their job. That's what we pay them for.
I mean, they put themselves on the line, and yeah, they're there to police and protect the community, but they also have to go home at night.
Sure.
And they have a life. They have a family they also have to support. And when they're following the law, they're following their rules, they're trying to maintain order, and somebody is trying to kill the person trying to maintain order. At that point, you have to draw that line. I hate this argument that, what about non-lethal forces? Non-lethal tactics, right?
Yes.
You could have shot him somewhere else other than the chest or head. You could have disarmed an appendage, right?
Yes.
Or disarmed, something like that.
Shoot him in the leg.
Shoot him in the leg.
That unrealistic nonsense.
Right. I mean, anybody that's really, you go and you take a gun course. When you take your training with the gun course, the targets don't move.
Yeah, it's 10 yards away, and it's not a high-pressure situation. You can hit that shot all day, but when the target's as small as a leg is, not even half a foot wide at its widest, and it's moving towards you, it's stupid to think that you have to shoot that you have to aim for that. They're not trained to do that for obvious reason.
No, you're trained to disable the target the fastest way possible.
Center of mass. Yeah.
Right. And being somebody that I have at least 7 guns of my own. I shoot them pretty often, and even just going from 5, like you have 4 or 5 stationary targets and trying to put 2 of them in each target as fast as you can, you miss. You miss some of your targets when you're trying to move that quick to make shots. So this idea that you're going to just hit them in the leg and it's going to disable them is also false. There's drugs and stuff in people's systems that make them immune to pain, make them not able to feel something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unrealistic to think that, well, you need to shoot them in the leg, or even tasers. Tasers is another terrible one. With tasers, you have to get 2 prongs to stick. And that means if one of them doesn't stick, okay, then you have to put the taser down, throw it away, reach for your gun, which by that time it might be too late. Tasers are unreliable. They get stuck in clothes. The pins don't completely pierce. It's an electronic device, so it could have an electronic malfunction.
Wow. It sounds like you've been watching my videos.
I don't think it's that, but maybe I have.
I think the difficulty that a lot of people have is they operate under this assumption, and it's a stupid assumption, that police work is like movies, and that cops could disarm knife attackers if they want to, that they're trained for that kind of thing. This is naive. And people massively underestimate the fragility of the human body, and they overestimate the police officer's ability to fight. And I don't think they understand that knife wounds are deadly. It is stupid to think that police must put themselves within range of a knife. So the question becomes, how close do you let a person with a knife get to you before you're allowed to shoot? And with cops, 20 feet is not unreasonable.
No, because that's with somebody that's my caliber, my size. I'm almost 6'6". I take really big strides when I run.
Yeah, and you can cover ground if you sprint.
I can cover 7 to 8 feet in one step. And so if I'm sprinting at you, you're not going to have much time to decide, hey, is he close enough to shoot or is he not close enough to shoot? You're not going to have time to do that. You're going to have split seconds to make a decision whether or not you're going to live or die today. And then there's cops should be able to disarm people with knives. Okay, well, tell that to the four UK police officers and the one guy in the pub, where the guy came in, he had a knife and was threatening to cut a woman. So one of the guys that was drinking at the bar went and fight him and ended up with 2 giant gashes behind his head. And 2 of the 4 cops ended up with stab wounds.
Yeah.
It's like, is that really what's necessary to stop a guy with a knife?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person. I'm of the position that is no. But
well, I'm probably talking mainly to the people that are going to watch your video.
Yes.
Because I figure your viewers are more than likely people of your party side. So I'm more speaking to them than I am speaking to you.
I think every time I upload a video and I lose those viewers, it's just...
It's silly.
I am like... Okay, there's a tone deafness with this, and it's twofold. People are emotion-driven creatures, and they don't know how or why our criminal justice system must operate the way it does. But people also get their news from bad news sources, and this is confirmation bias, right? You get your news from news sources which already agree with your worldview, and people who think cops are bad go to news that says that cops are bad, and it reinforces their narrative. Is this a failure of media, or is this a failure of media consumers?
A failure on both, I think. Media's always a business. They're always going to make money. They're going to say what they can say to get their ratings, to get their views. It comes down to us, the people that are going to, we're going to look at a left-wing site, we're going to look at a right-wing site, and then if you look at those and you see some things that are the same in there, that's pretty much where you can draw the line of what's correct about the story.
Where do you get your news from?
I get it from all sorts of places.
Primarily
on Fox News, Fox Business, some Breitbart, some MSNBC, some NBC.
Do you got any journalists you like in particular?
Hannity and Tucker. I'd say those are probably some of my favorites.
I don't even think they count as journalists.
I really like. I'm not that Ben Shapiro's a journalist, but I really like a lot of things he has to say.
He's a bit more of a pundit, which is what I figure Hannity and Tucker are. Finding fair media is difficult, especially when you have a variety of different media outlets. And Progressive has basically come to mean race baiting cop hater, and any outlet that says it's all about free speech basically became code for let's post Nazi memes and white genocide nonsense. And the progressive outlets, they aren't really that progressive, and the free speech outlets aren't free speech oriented. PewTube actually removed their top rated videos because they were communist videos.
Right, because the left-wing trolls came out and trolled them.
Yeah, which is...
It was funny. That was hilarious.
If you're free speech oriented, that is a byproduct of what you get. And Black Pigeon Speaks, right? We'll remove PewTube. Black Pigeon Speaks is supposedly a platform about the free exchange of ideas. If I wrote Heather an article for the site right now, I guarantee you it would never go up, because they have a narrative, and despite that free speech of, free exchange of ideas moniker, they want a one-sided narrative, and that's confirmation bias. And what ends up happening is people who try to be fair to the facts, I think I am, end up losing subscribers and viewers for the high crime of making sense.
Yeah, that really happens. That's 100% true. And I think it comes back to, like you said, bias. With media sources, they're gonna put out something that's going to get them money, right? They're gonna put out something that's gonna get them clicks.
Sure.
So if it's something that's gonna push along, getting people on board to watch their site more, they're gonna do it.
Sure. That's called the CNN effect, right? Because of our friends at CNN. They don't tend to report things that are wrong. Quite the contrary. They're right almost all the time, but they hype up innocuous facts, much in the same way that Breitbart does with the gaslighting, every time they talk about a Mexican migrant. CNN's the same way, and it's painful to read as somebody who knows better, but if you don't, it's so easy to see how you can go to that narrative that cops are gunning down black people. But
right, and go ahead.
Well, I want to say, in fairness to Black Lives Matter, I do think the country has been suffering from a racial divide, and I think they're wrong about it being an issue with police, but the country has to deal with cultural racism, and we have to deal with institutional racism, and we're not doing so well at that.
Well, see, this is a thing that I have, like, with Black Lives Matter. Show me the people that say that Black lives don't matter, and I'll stand with you against them and say, no, black people do matter. We all matter.
Well,
right?
some people on the alt-right say that.
Right, and that's why I don't really like the alt-right that much.
But they are growing in influence.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't think it's going to be this sweeping wave to take over all of the United States.
Oh, it doesn't start like that.
Oh, I don't think that's going to be the people. But let me get back to my point.
Sure. Sorry about that.
There was a firefighter, Tyler Rodagon. A firefighter said on Facebook, "I'd rather save dogs than save a nigger," and that is somebody that he got fired. He lost his job, and rightfully so. That's wrong. You can't say that. Like, and you shouldn't be in civil service if that is your position.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't disagree.
It just bothers me that we do have people like that,
and they are in these institutions, which is why, I mean, this is the institutional racism I'm talking about. That we can't, if there's attitudes like that, we can't address the problems that black people are experiencing today, as far as what an institution can do or can't do.
Right. To institutional racism, I'd like to see, show me the law that exactly says where exactly it is that the racial problem is, and I will fight against that law.
Yeah. That sounds like something Ben Shapiro said. It doesn't have to show. It doesn't have to be racist in text. An institution could be racist in intent or in effect, and never be outwardly racist. Up until a few years ago, crack cocaine carried a stricter sentencing penalty than powdered cocaine. Now, crack cocaine was, the convictions were primarily black, and the powder cocaine convictions were primarily white. Is that not institutional racism?
Well, let's elaborate on this. The people that were pushing for the stricter punishments on the crack cocaine were inner city black people when that law was being passed.
Okay.
So is that institutional, or I mean, if
Sure.
that's institutional, I guess, but that wasn't some white guy sitting on top of a shelf saying, you know what, let's make blacks go to jail for
Sure.
more cocaine.
Like I said, it can be racist in intent or effect without being outwardly racist. But if you need another example, there's an example in policing. Stop and frisk was a policy that President Trump wants to bring back for the nation that overwhelmingly affected non-whites. Is that not a racist institution?
Yeah, that would be an issue. I wouldn't support stop and frisk. I think that has something to do with, our was it Fourth Amendment?
Yeah.
It's kind of a violation of that. Now, if we were in some kind of crazy in-game scenario or something, then maybe you could instate that. But I don't think stop and frisk is constitutional. Now, it did have some benefits.
Sure. It kept us safe, but so would keeping cameras in your house. It's not the kind of safety we want. It's Minority Report.
Right, but I think you shouldn't do stop and frisk. Let's get that out there.
So President Trump is wrong?
Yeah, he's not right on everything.
It's refreshing to hear somebody say that.
he's not right on everything. I mean, I like the guy, but he says some stupid shit.
Yeah, every time he says stupid shit, though, everyone's convinced he's playing 108-degree dimensional chess underwater. That's all this kind of shit.
In a submarine?
In a submarine, upside down, with a paddleboard on his ass. It's fucking insane the lengths people will go to defend him.
But, I mean, not everything that he says is right. And I think, like I said earlier, Trump, if you like Trump, he likes you. If you don't like Trump, he doesn't like you. And he likes to make that known.
But you do like Trump.
Yeah, I think overall, he's an okay guy.
Okay, there were changes to our election laws that would be racist in effect as well. 12% of legal registered voters don't have a voter ID, according to the Brady Foundation. The bulk, almost overwhelmingly, minority. And ever since Shelby versus Holder, there were, almost 1,000 voting locations have been closed almost exclusively in minority neighborhoods. That's institutional racism, isn't it?
I guess. I mean, it sounds like it. I'd have to read into it a lot more to have an affirmative issue. But I'll take your stance on it as
when I upload this, I'll put a source.
Right.
Do you think Donald Trump has helped race relations in this country?
No, I wouldn't say he's helped them. I don't know if he's made them much worse. I mean, we were already pretty shit.
Mm-hmm.
We were already having a lot of issues.
You say that especially after this thing with the NFL?
That we were already having people kneel before.
Yeah, but then Trump calls them out on Twitter, and suddenly
a lot of people called him out on Twitter. It wasn't just Trump calling him out on Twitter.
A lot of people don't have the platform that Donald Trump has. He's the president of the United States.
Right, but he's also not the same. He wasn't the one person calling him out. I mean, we've had other people that have platforms that are calling him out. Joy Vila, Mike Cernovich. There's a couple of people. Ted Cruz said something about it.
Sure.
So there's more than just his influence on it.
It's the influence of influential people who are racially divisive?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if racially divisive, but there is some issue to it. Like, Trump shouldn't have said anything about them kneeling. I would agree with that. That's whatever. I'm if you want to kneel, cool. As long as it doesn't go against the terms and regulations you signed up for when you wanted to go play for the NFL. I don't care if you want to kneel.
Okay. I think the issue comes down to people looking at Donald Trump and seeing a racist. And Donald Trump tries very hard to seem like a racist sometimes. And
I think it's more that he's not as polished as he should be because he's not a politician. I mean, we can take a couple of the instances.
Do you really have to be a politician to know that you shouldn't say that Mexico was sending rapists?
Well, see, there's kind of this thing. Let's answer some questions here. We have immigrants come into this country. Some get arrested. Some for rape, right? Some for murder. Some for sex trafficking. Some for drug laws, right?
Yes.
And then you have some that come over here and work their asses off to try to better their life, right?
The majority, yes.
Right. So when he said, that there's rapists, criminals of all kinds, and then good people coming over here, he wasn't factually wrong in the statement.
Sure, but
Sure,
he
sure,
was,
he could-
but he was doing like what CNN does in that he hyped up something that is not as big an issue as it actually is. He expanded it beyond its proper proportion.
Maybe. I think that's just a lack of his ability to articulate the words because he's not, he hasn't been somebody to talk in the public eye before.
But how could you say that? He knows words. He knows the best words. Believe me.
It's the best words in the world. Nobody knows words better than Trump.
Yeah.
I love when he talks like that. It's comical.
Well, that's what's frightening, as it shouldn't be. But this was a guy who was sued twice by our Justice Department for racial discrimination in housing. They sent people to Trump Tower, white people, to rent an apartment, and they were given, there's vacancies, we'll rent to you. And then they sent black people to do the same thing, no vacancies. We don't have anything available. That's a pretty solid case for racial discrimination.
I'd have to look into the case, but yeah, that probably is discrimination. The question is, did Donald Trump sit there and say, "Hey, tell those people not to come in here," or was it somebody else?
He actually did say that. He actually did say that on another case. He said that, and he was fined by the New Jersey Casino Control Commission for having a policy that removed African American card dealers if patrons were uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, that's wrong. You probably shouldn't have done that.
No.
But there's the case that crap, it just escaped me. There's the lady that lives in Trump Tower for free.
Okay.
She was homeless. She was hiding in one of Trump's like ballrooms or something like that. And security found her, told her to leave. She wasn't leaving, so the manager was called. And long story short, the manager got in touch with Trump, and Trump actually let her live in one of his rooms, and she's still living there for something like 8 years. Trump was given awards from Jesse Jackson back in the day for hiring non-minorities. It's kind of funny that a lot of this stuff was never talked about until he decided to step into the political sphere.
Well, some of it was, but with respect to that, do you think Donald Trump honestly helped that lady out of racial altruism, or do you think he did that because it's bad optics to kick out a homeless lady?
No, I think I think I would kick a homeless lady out of my building. I mean, or a homeless guy, if you're not paying, I would be the capitalist that I am. If you're not paying me for my services, why am I going to let you stay here? And I think, he did it probably out of the kindness. Mm-hmm. I don't think he sat there and thought, well, 8 years down the road, I'm going to run for president and I can use this story in my back pocket. I don't think that was the issue.
Yes. Did you ever read the thing about how Trump said that Judge Serial couldn't be trusted to be impartial because he was Hispanic?
Yeah, that was a bad statement. I mean, that's.
Was it a racist statement?
I don't know if it's a racist statement because what was the case about? The case was about
he was dealing with lawsuits about Trump University, and Donald Trump said he couldn't be trusted to be impartial because his parents were Mexican, and he wants to build a wall over Mexico, even though Judge Serial was born in the United States in Indiana.
Yeah, well, he's wrong for saying that. I think if judges take the oath, I think they're usually pretty good at upholding their judicial oath to preside fairly over situations.
In 1993, he was in a committee before Congress where he was quoted as saying that he would judge people by whether or not they have Indian blood to figure out if they're qualified to run a casino.
Is this you discussing Indian blood? We're going to judge people by whether they have Indian blood, whether they're qualified to run a gaming casino or not?
That probably is me, absolutely. Because I'll tell you what, if you look at some of the reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved, I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians, and a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut, and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
Depends whether or not you're approving it, sir.
No, it's not a question whether I'm approving it. It's not a question whether I'm approving it. Mr. Trump, you know in the history of this country where we've heard this discussion before, they don't look Jewish to me.
Oh, really?
They don't look Indian to me. They don't look Italian to me. And that was a test for whether people could go into business or not go into business, whether they could get a bank loan. You're too black. You're not black enough.
I want to find out.
That's not
Well, then why you're
that's not-
approving for Indian? Why don't you approve it for everybody then? sir?
That's not a-
If your case is non-discriminatory, why don't you approve for everybody? You're saying
you wouldn't
only
stand
Indians.
for it.
Wait a
You
minute,
wouldn't
sir.
stand for it in
You're
5
saying
minutes.
only Indians can have the reservations. Only Indians can have the gaming. So why aren't you approving it for everybody? Why are you being discriminatory? Why is it that the Indians don't pay tax, but everybody else does? I do.
Is that racist?
I don't think. I think that might be nationalist. I don't think that's racist.
Can you see why people get nationalist and racist mixed up when the lines are constantly blurred like that?
Well, they've been blurred. There's also been the help of the media to blur some of it too. But yeah, it's not just all one person blurring it.
You just blurred it right now. I mean, you're not the media. This is something people often do. They will not disconnect nationalists from white identity.
I mean, I disconnect white nationalists from white identity.
You didn't just now?
When?
When you said, well, it's not really racist, it's nationalist.
But that is a difference. Mexican's not a race.
Okay.
Mexican's
but
a nationality.
Indian is a race, right? The Indian people are Mongoloids. It's a Mongoloid race. They're not the same as whites. They're not Caucasian.
Was he talking Indian from India, or was he talking Native Americans?
Does it really matter?
That would be the difference between race and nationality.
What do you think Indians from India are racially?
They're Middle Eastern race. They're the...
What's a Middle Eastern race?
I don't know the exact whatever
Are they
homogenous term.
Are they Caucasian?
No.
Okay. It doesn't matter where they're from. Indians from India or Indians who are Native Americans are not Caucasians, right?
Right, they're not Caucasian.
All right. He's also the godfather of the birther movement, Donald Trump is, right? Was that racist?
I don't know if he was the godfather of it. I think Hillary Clinton also said something about him being a birther back in the day.
What did Hillary Clinton... Hillary Clinton said Donald Trump was a birther back in the day?
I think she said something about Obama being born in Kenya.
What did she say?
I'm trying to figure it out. I don't remember exactly what it is. I've read something about it. Okay. I could be wrong.
Is Donald Trump a racist?
I don't think he's a racist.
But I mean, I just read this whole list to you of different things he's done. How many racist things does he have to do or say before we can conclude he's racist?
I mean, how many things has he done that help people of other races? I mean, at what point do we really have a scale of 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2? Like, I've heard a lot of people around me say some really racist things, and a lot of them were not the people I grew up around. And am I to assume that, when I've heard somebody say before, well, fuck black people, or I hate niggers, am I to assume that off of, those 2-3 instances that person is legitimately really a racist?
I don't know.
Because I have somebody really, really close to me that has said those statements before in a living room whenever we were hanging out. And, that person, I don't believe that person is a racist. Well, I don't think he is deep down inside, but he said some racist things. He's, expressed some deep desire for some things against black people. And this person is not white.
Okay. So the Browns, they're the real racists.
No, there's racist white people, there's racist black people, there's racist...
I'm fucking with you, dog.
Hispanics. Oh, I know. I'm just saying, there was a Rasmussen poll, in 2013 that more blacks believed that blacks were racist than the white people believed the whites were racist. 53% of blacks thought other blacks were racist, and 42% of whites thought other whites were racist.
Yeah, I don't deny a person could be racist against their own race. That is
They're not
the
saying
white
they're
guilt
racist
thing.
against
Kind
their
of.
own race.
Or okay, blacks
They're
are
saying-
racist against whites. Yeah, reverse racism.
Not just reverse racism is retarded ideology. Not just race against whites, they're racist against whites, other blacks, and Hispanics. And whites are racist against other, you have the hierarchy, right? The higher level whites are, they hate the trailer trash whites. They make them look bad type thing. You have those people.
Yeah,
And then, of course, the racist ones hate the blacks and they hate the Hispanics.
that's kind of an elitism. Yeah. Let's move on from what's in Donald Trump's heart, and let's figure out what's in his head, because he's made a decision on the Iranian nuclear deal, and it's a secret. Explain to me, you who is a fan of Donald Trump, the virtue of a surprise foreign policy.
I don't like surprise foreign policy. I don't think
Fucking
he should.
nobody
Just
does.
Just like I didn't like the surprise, when he talked about on Twitter about the transgender thing. I talked with, my people, and he just left it there for like 14 minutes. And I think somebody had made a video, and they're like, they were like a military commander, and they're like talking like, I didn't know if we were going to war or what right then. And it was just comical.
No, but that's the thing. It's scary.
Surprise foreign policy is kind of dumb.
Okay. Do you hope he rips up the Iranian nuclear deal?
I think maybe revise it some. He shouldn't get rid of it. I would hope Iran wouldn't have to use nukes. It's kind of the speak softly, carry a big stick. I would really hope that they're not going to use the big stick.
But Donald Trump's not a speak softly and carry big stick kind of guy. He's talk loudly and bluster on Twitter.
Carry the biggest stick.
Let me tell you, the biggest. No stick was ever so big. Believe me, I know a lot about big sticks.
There's no problem in that department.
All right, now
Believe me.
secret policy positions was a trend that kind of carried over from the campaign. Donald Trump had no policy in the campaign, right? He had a plan to defeat ISIS in 30 days, and that too was a secret. He was going to repeal and replace Obamacare with something fantastic. This is how he avoids telling people the very obvious truth, that is that what he said is vacuous and empty, and the thought process that goes into these things is mostly non-existent. He does not simply know anything. And I can present as evidence of this the current healthcare bill. Right? I don't know if you saw, but he wrote on Twitter that he wouldn't sign a bill if it didn't protect people with pre-existing conditions. But he keeps promoting this bill, and it does exactly that. It does not protect people with pre-existing conditions.
Healthcare is kind of like this big giant mess. I don't dabble in too much.
Well, do you want the bill to pass, the Graham Cassidy bill?
Probably not. I haven't looked at it, but if it can't get a good majority of it, it's probably not a good bill to begin with, right?
Yeah.
If you can't get the majority of people on both sides to come together and do something about it, it's probably not a good deal.
So you don't support the Republicans' efforts to do this?
No.
Well, let's talk.
But let me get out of like this bill stuff. Let me just state my personal view.
Okay.
I think it should, power should be devolved back to the states.
Okay.
States should run their own.
Well, this
healthcare.
bill does do
They
that.
should take care of themselves. I think it also has something else to do with corporations or something else about tax, healthcare within corporations too. I'm not the person that believes that a corporation should be forced to give you healthcare.
Okay.
I stand a little bit different than that.
Okay. Do you think Congress should pass major policy changes through legislative loopholes like reconciliation? That they skip debate and committees. Do you really want policy decided like that?
No, I think we should have debate. I think we should have talks. I don't like this 51 vote deal.
Yes.
I was against it when when it was used, in the last 8 years, and I'm against it now.
When was it used
The
in the
same
last
way
8
I'm
years?
against. Wasn't it used to pass Obamacare?
No.
It was something not the 60. It wasn't it. Not the 60 vote. It was like a 54 vote or something like that.
No, Obamacare was passed with a 60 vote margin.
There was something else
Arlen
then that was
Specter had to
voted
switch
like a-
parties just to vote for it. It's a process that killed Ted Kennedy. It was so hard to happen.
Well, there was something that was voted on. I don't have it here in front of me.
It's
There was something like 54 to
dealing
47.
with health care. I'm not sure, but it's probably a reconciliation bill because they amended something about Obamacare. They left some part out of Obamacare that they could later fix. It was an oversight, and they fixed it. I'm not sure particularly, but the original Obamacare bill, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, passed with a 60 vote margin.
Okay. That's it. Then I think it's fine. I think that it should work that way. I don't think we should have this quote-unquote nuclear option. Same way I believe that presidents shouldn't have presidential pardons. I think if the law is the law, it should just be how it is.
So then you think Donald
the judge
Trump
passes.
I'm sorry, you think Donald Trump was wrong
Go ahead.
then to pardon Joe Arpaio?
Morally, I don't know if it's wrong or not. I think just me personally, I think that there shouldn't be a presidential pardon. Nobody should get a presidential pardon.
Okay.
I don't know whether or not Joe should have got it or not, right?
Well,
But I think that there shouldn't be one to begin with.
okay, so it's not morally wrong, it's procedurally wrong.
Okay.
Is that what
Sure.
you're saying? It's procedurally wrong?
Right, you shouldn't. I think it went through the systems, it went through the courts, it went through a judge, and I think it should stand there. Or if anything else, the case should have went to the Supreme Court, right? And then the Supreme Court decides on it.
Is passing secretive bills through reconciliation process procedurally wrong too?
Probably.
Is holding a Supreme Court seat open for over a year procedurally wrong?
Well, I mean, probably procedurally wrong. But when, back in 1992, Joe Biden threatened to do the same thing whenever there was a open seat around. Or they said that if the seat came open during the election cycle back then, that, they would have held it open. So to me, this is just desserts.
Okay, it's just desserts. Did Joe Biden ever actually do that? Did Democrats ever hold a seat open from a Republican judge? I'm sorry, Republican.
No, it never happened. But it never happened. But they surely threatened to do it if it happened. I think it was important though. Like you said, it's not morally. It's what was the other thing you said?
Procedurally.
It's not morally wrong. It's procedurally wrong.
Well, let's skip
I
procedure then. Is it morally wrong to hold the Supreme Court open, the seat open, and deny Justice Garland a fair hearing?
In my opinion, no, because it was in the election cycle.
When in the election cycle?
It
It was
roughly.
It was over a year before
away from the election.
Yeah, it was over a year before the president even got sworn in. I mean, that's a long time to go before the election cycle. And which election cycle in particular? Presidential elections, Senate elections, congressional elections? We're constantly in a perpetual state of election cycles. Donald Trump's already campaigning for 2020.
Well, the Senates don't appoint Supreme Courts.
No,
They vote on it, but they're not the ones that appoint the person to be nominated. So I think in a presidential cycle,
no.
maybe
The Senate's.
I think it's silly to say that. I think it's silly to say that we're in a 2020 election cycle right now, just because Trump hosts rallies that news sources say it's a campaign-style rally. No, he's just going out there and talking to people, telling them what he's been doing. Just kind of being, a showy guy. Like, here I am. I'm not hiding behind my desk in the office. I'm out here with the people. It's all a PR stuff.
When are we in a 2020 campaign cycle then? When does the campaign cycle begin?
I would say roughly a year before the election. So probably the November 2019. Probably around then.
I'm not going to put an exact date on it, but
Probably around then.
No,
But let me get back to
and
the-
you
let me
don't.
get-
Okay.
Let me get back to the point I was going to make with why I think morally it was an okay decision. Because you're letting, in essence, the people vote for that next Supreme Court justice.
Didn't the people already vote in
Yeah,
2012? I mean,
You mean, yeah, for Obama?
yeah, they already decided they want President Obama to pick the justice. His term doesn't end when the election cycle
just put it
starts.
this way. Let me make sure I say this.
Okay.
Obama should have been able to put Garland in. That is my stand. He should have. Like, that's the procedure. That's the rule. And I'm just saying that, like, just looking at it from my point of view, it's kind of like this thing where the American people, like, directly got to judge it. Like, got to judge who got to go in, right? But I'm saying it should have been Garland, right?
Sure.
Because that's the procedure. It should have worked that way.
Can you really say?
I'm
Sorry. Can you really say that the American people got to decide though if the majority of people voted for Hillary Clinton?
Well, then the American people decided by the rules that were set up by our founding fathers. Yeah.
No.
I
Some
think
Americans
it's more,
decided by those rules. The majority of Americans. The majority of Americans wanted Garland to be on the seat. If you go by that logic.
Well, I'm fine with, like I said, I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem. Like, Garland should have been there. That's the procedure, right?
Yes.
I didn't have an issue with Garland being on there, or I mean, I didn't have an issue with him being allowed not to be there. If that's the procedure, Obama should have appointed him. He should have been or he should have had the hearing and been the justice, right? I don't know if he'd have gotten the votes, but maybe he would have.
Hey, just have the hearing. Make the senators explain why they vote no, when he was already confirmed at like 98 to nothing before.
Right.
This is something
you should follow the rule.
This is something John McCain had an issue with, and it was an inability to return to regular order. Okay, so let me go down this list. Obama should have appointed Garland. Bills shouldn't be passed through reconciliation processes, right? You have all these, presidents shouldn't be able to pardon. All these issues that you are so vehemently against Republicans keep abusing. Why do you keep voting for them?
Well, I'm not a Republican. I'm a conservative.
Okay, who'd you vote for?
So it's.
Tell me one liberal you voted for in the last election.
You mean here? I voted Obama in 2012.
Oh, you did?
I didn't vote Romney.
Okay.
So I mean, I have crossed the aisle. There's a
sure.
There's a town. There's a city that we live in, right? There's this city we live in, and before the not the person that is right now, and not the person before that, there was, there was the Hispanic guy. I'm trying not to nail down our city, right? I voted for him. He was on the other side of the aisle because the other guy wanted to do something about cutting city park jobs or something like that.
Okay. But
and so I have crossed in the past.
But why didn't you cross this time if everything you hate procedurally is being abused by Republicans? Republicans were holding that seat open. You went fully aware of that in November, and you voted for a Republican, didn't you?
Right. Well, I voted on. I don't vote for. I'm selfish, I'm me. I take care of myself. I pay my own stuff, right?
Okay.
I'm a selfish person. I voted for the guy that said he wanted to make my area safer. He wanted to make me, he wanted to give me a tax cut.
Yeah, but doesn't everybody want to do that? Who's actually honest? Who's running on raising your taxes and making your areas more dangerous?
Hillary Clinton said we were going to write fair tax codes for the middle class, and then we're going to raise taxes on the middle class. I happen to fall in the middle class.
Yeah, I happen to think you're referring to a gaffe.
If it was a gaffe, why didn't she correct it?
She did correct it. The transcripts have it saying we aren't going to raise classes on the middle class. I can provide you the transcript if you like.
So you're saying she went out there and she said something, and then somebody sitting there,
and then she
typed it up
misspoke.
Differently.
Yeah, because she misspoke.
I tend to take people at their word. Sorry, I mean,
I know.
Did she?
That's why I take Donald Trump at his word when he says he wants to do things like bring back torture. And you voted for that, right?
And he walked it back. That was wrong of him.
Well,
and Mattis told him. Mattis told him, no,
okay.
you can't say that. He's like, well, maybe we shouldn't do it then. And,
help me understand this. That because Republicans are constantly doing things that you don't like procedurally. They're constantly holding policy positions that you don't. This whole talk has been you saying you don't agree with the president in so many words. And you at the same time, you're also saying on at the other side of your mouth, well, he's doing an all right job. He's an alt-right kind of guy. Reason honestly, because there's an election coming up. Has Congress done its job?
No, and I think some of those rhinos need to be voted out.
With what? Replaced with what? Democrats?
With actual conservatives.
What's an actual conservative?
Some more Ted Cruz's. Give me more Ted Cruz's.
What's the difference? What would Ted Cruz do to fix the problems you're having with Congress right now?
I think he would. I would hope. Ted Cruz ran upon trying to devolve power from the presidency, trying to devolve power from Congress and the Senate back to the state. That's what the people I want. I want more. I don't want Congress and the Senate to do so much. I would rather states decide. That way, the people. Instead of having one or two senators, one or two, a few congressmen come from, the state. The people actually have more weight when it comes to their voting.
Now, what has Ted Cruz done to do any of that?
I don't remember. I haven't paid attention to Ted Cruz since he gave up running in the election.
At the moment, do you think Donald Trump is probably the best choice for 2020?
For the let's put it this way: if the Republicans want to win, yes. I don't know if he's the best choice yet. I'm going to give it. But we've had this discussion before where I told you we'll revisit that at 2019.
Okay,
I'll revisit whether or not he.
We do have
right now. Well, hold on, let me finish. Right now, he's got a couple of strikes against him on my list. So, as of right now, I don't know if I'd vote for him again.
I'm wondering what it would take to get you to vote Democrat, because so far there's nothing but strikes on the list of congressional Republicans. There's nothing but strikes on presidential Republicans. There's nothing but strikes everywhere, and you keep not punishing these people. They're passing a healthcare bill that you don't know what's in it, and the people who do know what's in it are saying it's bad news. Basically, every healthcare lobby group has come out against it, and the president.
Which is why it hasn't passed. Which is why it hasn't got the congressional support that it needed.
It hasn't passed because of that rhino, John McCain, that you're so eager to get rid of.
Excuse me.
So, I mean, what do they have to do for you to punish them?
I would want the to go back to what we had before Obamacare. Something that doesn't tell me, hey, I have to have insurance. You have to buy insurance, or you're going to get penalized.
Okay, so
my older brother had to pay $750 at the end of the year because the position he worked at, the job he had to work his way up to becoming full time. Right? He was working full time hours, but to be classified as the full time status, he had to work a certain time to get to that. And because those first 6 months or 7 months out of the year he didn't have insurance because he didn't qualify as that position, he got punished for $750.
Mm-hmm.
And when that hits home, that's for him at that time, that was almost a full paycheck.
Yeah, that seems like something that should be fixed with Obamacare. I don't necessarily know that means that the entirety of Obamacare should go away. The reason you have a mandate is because if you don't, people aren't going to get health insurance. Young people who are healthy won't get insured, and then they're going to get in a car accident, and they're going to need costly care, and those costs are going to get passed to people who have insurance. It's an unfair system, and Obamacare was the way to fix it. It took the socialism out of medicine.
Okay, well let me kind of ask you something.
Sure.
What's a worse deal? Okay, what would have been a worse deal? What we're getting, what's being proposed now, or Bernie Sanders' plan? Which one would have been worse?
What's being proposed now?
Well, putting us at $36 trillion in debt after 10 years is worse than what we're getting now.
Well, firstly, it's not 36 trillion, and it's not 19 trillion. It accumulates debt, but it's not to that degree. And it depends on what your goals are. If you think the policy if your ideal healthcare policy is one that insures people and expands access to healthcare, single payer any day. If your policy is that
I'm more of the firm believer in take care of your own self.
Okay.
I know that's not good politics, but
it's also not good policy. It's unrealistic to assume that everybody's going to take care of their own selves, and all, like I said, with the individual mandate, all that happens is that people who don't end up driving up costs when they need health care, and you're stuck with more expensive health care. You want to fix that? Go to single payer. Medicare works wonders.
I mean, I would like to not have to have insurance. I don't go to the doctor. I don't need to.
You don't need
Even
to
when I
until
get
you
sick.
do.
I mean, I don't. Even when I get sick, I have I have a half Hispanic. You know, I'm married to a half Hispanic woman. I have a Hispanic side of the family that I go to, and they have every known remedy that I don't need anything.
What's the remedy for a car accident?
Well, there isn't a remedy for the car accident.
Okay.
But me personally, I'm in a very low risk for a car accident. I drive a big vehicle. My work traveling is 2.2 miles.
Okay.
You know, something can happen, but I mean, I don't think I should be forced to have to buy an insurance.
Should you be forced to buy health insurance? I'm sorry, car insurance?
Yes, because I'm operating a car. I would be liable if I hit somebody, and I can't pay if I hit somebody. You know, that's right. I would have to have car insurance.
Okay. You should have it because you would be liable to pay, and you couldn't do that if you didn't have insurance. That's what you said?
Right.
Do you not see the double standard here with healthcare?
I guess, but no, I'm.
You would be liable for your own healthcare bills, and if you
I
didn't have
would be
insurance, you wouldn't
okay
be able to pay.
What do you mean I wouldn't be able to pay? I have money.
Okay.
I have the ability to pay for my stuff. That's what I'm saying. I understand. That's why I said it doesn't make good politics, and like you said, doesn't make good policy. I'm just telling you like what I would do, like what I would want.
Okay.
This isn't like I'm not trying to make a law for everybody else. I'm saying just, you know, what I would do, like what I would do for myself, right? Of course, I'm not going to sit here and take, you know, the Medicaid, the Medicare, the welfare. You know, I'm not going to take that from all the people. I'm just saying, like,
But Trump
the
is,
ideology.
and you're going to vote for Trump.
I don't know if I'm going to vote for Trump yet.
You're going to vote for Republicans who want to take that stuff away.
I mean, I don't know. Are my Republicans that are up for debate the ones that are doing it? Then, I mean, I don't even remember.
You referenced being a fan of Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz wants to do it.
Well, like I said, I believe that from the start that it should be devolved to the states. The states should have the power. The states should set up their own stuff.
And what if the states don't have the money?
Then some form of government aid should help. But I don't think.
If only there were some sort of a bill to do that. Perhaps some sort of, I don't know, Patient
Okay.
Protection and Affordable Health Care Act. It does exactly that. It sets up state exchange programs. It gives states money and Medicaid to help support people who they otherwise couldn't afford health care. It gives people subsidies who otherwise couldn't afford health care. Everything you want is in Obamacare.
Okay, but like, let's. How many people? You know, give me an example of the state that couldn't afford it, right?
Okay, we'll say Missouri. It's a usually poor, impoverished state that can't afford its own welfare. It pays less in taxes than it receives in federal aid.
So you want to punish the people in South Dakota that can take care of themselves?
How are they being punished?
Well, they're having to pay for the other people. They're having to pay for people that
How are they
pay for
paying?
themselves.
How are they paying for other people?
They would be paying into Obamacare. They would be paying through the system. They would be paying, you know, their taxes and whatnot.
Obamacare isn't something people pay into. I'm sorry. Obamacare isn't something people pay into. You buy your own health insurance and you don't get fined, and that's it. You don't have to pay anything.
Well, but you're still forcing somebody to pay for health insurance. Like,
Right. That helps
That's-
them individually. It doesn't, I mean, South Dakotans.
No, it doesn't. No, you can't say that it automatically helps them. Because what if, like I don't go to the doctor, right?
Okay.
I haven't been to the doctor in probably like 5 years.
Okay.
Other than like one random checkup, and I paid for pocket out of that one. Why should I be told that I need to pay this extra money every month that I could be using to better other aspects of my life?
Because it's an insurance. Because you will one day need to go to the doctor, and you might not always be able to pay out of pocket. Healthcare is not cheap in this country, and you got people who have insurance who still have to go into bankruptcy because their healthcare costs are so expensive. Now, I grant you all those things about being young and it being unlikely, but young people get cancer all the time. Young people get into car accidents all the time, and if you don't have insurance, it falls upon your family to pay that. And if they can't do it, they have to start selling assets.
I don't expect anybody to take care of me. I expect myself to take care of myself.
Okay,
But
it's unrealistic after a while, right? Somebody's going to have to take care of you if something happens and you can't take care of yourself.
I guess, but I think I'm set up well enough myself that everything would be taken care of by myself. This is part of the discussion that I hadn't prepared for. We didn't talk about this. I hadn't researched this. I was looking at other things.
Sure.
I could probably have a better argument for you next time if
Sure.
if I had a heads up on healthcare.
Sure. Don't worry about it. I'm a policy wonk, so I get directly into the minutia of all this stuff. It breaks my heart that people don't, because they're casting votes for these people and they have no idea what they're doing.
Well, a lot of reasons that is a lot of people have to live everyday life.
Yeah.
I mean, I work 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I would work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week if I was allowed to.
Sure.
So a lot of people can't justify, or a lot of people don't have the time to sit around and policy wonk all this stuff, as you say, and look up everything and read everything. So again, it comes back to, somehow everything always leads back to the media. It comes back to whatever media you're listening to.
Which is why I really wish
It
people
tells
wouldn't
you.
listen to Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. for that exact reason, because you're being misinformed. You're getting your information from bad sources. But anyway, our time must come to a close, so I will part with asking you a question and giving you the last word. I want you to rate Donald Trump's presidency thus far on a scale of 1 to 10, and depart with your final thoughts.
I think Donald Trump's probably sitting at like a 6.5 right now, maybe a 6. He needs to not Twitter rampage as much, although I like that he uses Twitter sometimes. But he needs to stay off of the shit that's probably beneath the office. As for, I guess, my last word on this discussion, I would hope that your viewers would come away with, that we can come to eye on some things, even though we're on different sides of the political spectrum. We can see on certain policies, and I think even though there are quite a few things you and I don't agree on, that we can sit down and have a reasonable discussion about it, and that we should have more discussions about it, so that way we can better move things forward in our society.
That sounds awfully like a cuck to me.
Well, cuck me off then.
Thank you for doing this.
All right.